separated. You've got to catch it on the road in the playoffs. RC, get your guy right.
That is a devastating miss for a Chicago team that needed to make things happen. Then Mitch Trubisky on a 4th down runs out of bounds for reasons known only to him. But the Saints go into halftime up only 7-3. This is a game. 3rd quarter now, 3rd and 15 Chicago. Trubisky's going to throw an incomplete pass. That's not the important part of the play. Watch what happens after when Anthony Miller gets himself thrown out of this game. Dan, this was a day where the Bears did a lot of really dumb things.
Yeah, a lot of really bad penalties. You're going to see Anthony Miller retaliate there. We get told from a very early age, the second guy is always going to get caught. It happens again to the Bears.
And then Breeze is going to make him pay. This is early in the 3rd, and this is Michael Thomas again.
It's an incredible adjustment by Michael Thomas. It's a great throw by Drew up high, but Michael Thomas turning back. Greeny, this play is about not panicking with the football. Just a remarkable job of Latavius Murray getting up after blocking, but Drew knowing where he's going to be, not panicking, and just that quick little dump off.
That made it 14-3, and then in the 4th quarter, this one puts it away. Kamara for the touchdown. The Saints fans are saying, we want Brady, and that's who they will get next. You didn't see a lot of Bears offense in that highlight because, frankly, there wasn't a lot of it. The Saints, with the win, they move on, and so let's talk about it. And I guess we should start with the Saints. And Ryan Clark, I will come to you. Does that look like a Super Bowl team now that they have that offense back together the way they want? Are the Saints a Super Bowl team?
They are a Super Bowl team. Now, does that mean they finish the deal and get there? They still have some tough games to play starting this week with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And when you can play defense like that, where your leading sack rusher, Trey Hendrickson, is not playing, and you can still put pressure on Mitchell Trubisky. You play great on the back end. You stop the run, in which the Chicago Bears have been doing better toward the end of the season. That's the type of defense that gets you to the Super Bowl. That's the type of defense that wins playoff games. And then you look offensively, obviously having Alvin Kamara back on the field, having Michael Thomas on the field, Drew Brees being surgical in the underneath passing game, also hitting a couple of passes deeper down the field of Michael Thomas. You start to kind of feel good about where this team is. And so going into this week against a team you've already beaten twice, you have to think that if you're Sean Payton, if you're Drew Brees, you are telling your locker room you have exactly what it takes to make it to the Super Bowl, but you have to continue doing what you do best, which is play great defense, protect the ball offensively, and then get Alvin Kamara in space and give him opportunities to make big plays.
All right, so we will have all week to talk about the Saints. Dan, let's talk about the Bears, whose season came to an end yesterday. What is the first thing we say about them this morning?
Time to move on. It's time to move on from Matt Nagy and Mitchell Trubisky, because yesterday was kind of the same thing that we've seen for 3 years. Championship-level defense. Defense that consistently shows up and good enough, and the offense just doesn't get it done. The 4th down that Mitchell Trubisky does not sell out for. I have no idea how he doesn't try and dive to go get that. The offensive line lacking in protection, not having a great plan versus the pass rush for New Orleans. Greedy, Hembo sent me some really interesting numbers, okay, with Matt Nagy. In the 3 years of him as their head coach, he's coached 50 games. They've scored 1 touchdown or less 18 times. That's bad. That's more than a third of the time they've scored a touchdown or less. The Jets, the Jags, and the Bengals are the only teams that have done it more. So yesterday was the final straw. Chicago, you got into the playoffs and made it a conversation, but you answered it yesterday. It's time to move on.
Rex?
Yeah, when I look at it, I think what they're going to do is move on from Mitchell Trubisky. But I'm with Dan. Look, I've never been a big fan of this Nagy guy. And quite honestly, it's because of the way he handled the Trubisky thing. He put everything on him. I mean, he's the guy they blame everything on. Well, why don't you look at yourself first, man? I mean, dude, you scored 3 points in this game. I mean, I know it's 9, but no, it was 3 points.
Right.
And quite honestly, you're an offensive guru. That's why you came here. And those stats that Himbo just put up and Dan talked about, that's not acceptable. And hey, you've gone to the playoffs, 2 out of the last 3 years. Congratulations. That's because the NFC is a hell of a lot weaker than the AFC. But when I look at this, your guy at Northwestern, Chicago kid, that fits better. Because this guy, that plays in Chicago. This guy, I mean, I don't like him. I don't like the way he doesn't take every damn bullet for him. That's your job as a head coach. You don't make your quarterback take every bullet. You take the dang bullets, and that's what I don't respect about this guy.
Look, he has been trying to move on from Mitch Trubisky a million different times in a million different ways, and if he stays, he's now going to get his chance to try and coach a third different quarterback. He was brought there to turn Trubisky into a star. Then he brought in Nick Foles, and we saw how that goes. And if he stays, it does seem like they're going to go a different direction. Pat Fitzgerald is the coach of Northwestern you're talking about. We'll see how all of that shakes out. More on that game as we go. Meantime, to the college game tonight, and Rex, again, sneaking Hembo onto you today.
Yeah, he does.
National championship games go back to 98. Which team has the record for most points scored in any of them?
Yeah, man, I mean, this is like impossible. But the obvious thing is to choose Alabama. Why? Because they won so many of them, right? And then he knows I've got Clemson roots, so he might say Clemson. No, I'm going to say Ohio State, and I have no idea why, but I'm going to stay them.
Well, you thought the right way. You thought of going away from the teams you thought he would make it, but it's actually USC. It was USC, scored 55 points in the 2005 Orange Bowl. Hembo feels pretty good. I will say this, that was a tough one to hang on Rex today. But it's appropriate because tonight is the game. Nothing new for Bama and the Buckeyes as they go head-to-head tonight, considering no two schools have appeared in the national title game more often in this era. Nick Saban seeking a record-breaking 7th national championship, while Ryan Day can become the 7th coach to win a title in his first 2 full seasons. So the coaching matchup, the pedigree of the programs, outstanding, and so are the quarterbacks. Mac Jones and Justin Fields making this the first ever title game between starting quarterbacks who rank top 2 in the country in total QBR. The scene could not be set in a more perfect way or in a beautiful spot as you take a look at Miami, which is the site of tonight's game, Alabama, Ohio State. We've got it covered from every possible direction for you here all day on ESPN, starting right now with that man, David Pollack. Thank you for getting up with us. And so let's look ahead. David, what matchup are you most looking forward to tonight?
I can't wait to watch how the Buckeyes defend the Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Smith. I mean, it's been fun to watch over the year. Everybody takes a different approach, and everybody fails. So, you got the best playmaker in college football, a guy that can catch it short, a guy that can catch it long, runs great routes. It's kind of stinks, Greeny. I'm a defensive guy, and I love to be able to draw up matchups to have success, but you want to take away the RPO game, you play man coverage and stay inside of him, and then they throw it over your head. So you can't win. It stinks, but how they play Devontae Smith will be the first thing I'm looking for in the game.
Yeah, some people call Ohio State DBU because they have so many great backs there. We'll see if anyone can slow him down. Okay, let's simplify this as much as we can. Just finish the following sentence. Ohio State will win the game tonight if
they dominate the trenches. And that sounds very normal. Whoever wins the line of scrimmage wins. But if you watch the Clemson game in the semifinal, that's why Ohio State's here. Their defensive line owned Trevor Lawrence. 18 pressures. 7 different guys had those pressures. I mean, coming from all over the place. Tyreek Smith going to have to play big. He's looked the part the last couple years. Coming into his own, going to have to play enormous. But when I look at this Buckeye defensive line, they can get to Mac Jones, make Mac Jones move off of his spot. And by the way, the other side of the football too, Wyatt Davis and company, that big old offensive line, physical, nasty. Trey Sermon's been running the football. It's going to start up there if Ohio State has a chance.
All right, and then so very simply, the other side, Alabama will win the game tonight if
Tell you what, when you look at Alabama, it's so impressive because they have so many pitches they can throw to you, whether it be Najee running or Mac Jones throwing and spreading the ball out. Ohio State, when you look at Alabama, though, how about their defense? I mean, we haven't talked a lot about their defense because they've given up a ton of big plays, but can their defense hold some serves? Like Greeny, this is tennis, right? Can they hold serve a couple times? They can win the game, get it back to their offense. It's not a team that's built on defense anymore, but they're going to have to get 2 or 3 or 4 stops, get that ball back to their offense, and then it's go time because their offense has been the most complete offense in all of college football the whole season.
Right, and so to that point, I actually want to flip it around. Alabama, and no one stops them. It is a question of slowing them as best you can. So give me a number. How many points does Ohio State need to score tonight to win?
48. I think they got to get 48 points. And I know Rex's trivia question was 55, and maybe Alabama flirts with that, Rex, and gets him close to that. But again, this offense doesn't have deficiencies. It doesn't have weaknesses. But I do think you've seen through Alabama this season, though. Ole Miss put up a bunch of points. Florida put up a bunch of points. But Justin Fields and company are going to have to put up 48 if they want to win this ball game.
Of his passes as the Bills win their first playoff game since 1995. Meanwhile, in Seattle, Jared Goff threw for 155 yards coming off the bench, most by any player off the bench in a playoff win since Jay Fiedler back in 1999. And then in our nation's capital, Tom Brady leading the Bucs, their first playoff win since Super Bowl 37. Brady threw for 381 yards, his fourth most ever in a playoff game, and that sets up this. A pair of 40-year-old quarterbacks will highlight next weekend the top scoring offense against the top scoring defense. A 2018 quarterback draft matchup. What a spectacular weekend next weekend figures to be as the NFL playoffs continue next week. And, you know, Dan, you were telling us this morning that there was one player that you believe is the key to Tampa making a run to the Super Bowl. Who is that player?
Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown has become an integral part of this pass game for Tampa Bay. We're talking about multiple touches. Now that he's settled in, he's gotten into the rhythm of this offense and he's got his feet back underneath him. Multiple ways to get him the football. He's winning on routes. That was the big thing that didn't happen when he first started playing to that's happening now. He's winning against man coverage. He's seeing the field the same way as Tom Brady in the zones, throttling when he needs to, sitting in between linebackers when he needs to. Last 5 games, Tom Brady to AB, 77% completion percentage. That tells me that Tom trusts him. 10.4 yards per attempt. So they're pushing the ball downfield a lot, and then 5 touchdowns. The last time that Antonio Brown was like actually on the football team, okay? Not the first game back from sitting out for 18 months, but on the football team was 2 years ago in Pittsburgh. And they went on the road to play against New Orleans, and he had 14 for 185 and 2 touchdowns. He has become a matchup problem for this Tampa Bay offense. Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, who are you going to cover? I think he's a huge, huge part of this game moving forward this weekend.
RC, what do you think? That's Antonio Brown. Obviously, so many things have happened since the last time we saw him on a stage like this, but he does figure to be an important piece.
You know what? When you look at this offense, it was very Golden State Warrior-ish, right? When they won the 73 games, you felt like they could do anything. That's why we were so excited about Tom Brady. And then I kind of felt the same way I felt about KD going there as I felt Antonio Brown. I was like, oh, this is a luxury. No, this was a necessity. And we're starting to see that necessity play itself out. Because now Mike Evans, when he draws that #1 coverage, you get to see Antonio Brown work on guys who shouldn't be covering him. He's still a #1 receiver. And now with the play-action game going, with the protection of Tom Brady being a priority for Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians, this team is different. This isn't just the 7-step drop team that had Tom Brady sitting back there like a sitting duck, because they realized if we keep this dude clean, he is still one of the best quarterbacks in the world. And when he gets pressured, he's more like Sam Darnold. And that's what they've started to do. The play action pass, they're keeping extra linemen in the backfield, blocking Rob Gronkowski, and you can do that because 81 is on the outside now. This team is playing offense at a very high level, and they're playing very efficiently. This is going to be exciting to see them go up against the New Orleans Saints, who have been their kryptonite this year and, quite frankly, embarrassed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the last time that they met. This is a different Tampa Bay team, also a different New Orleans team. This is the matchup of the weekend, and I can't wait to see it.
The combined age of the quarterbacks in that game is 84 years old. We'll have all week long to look forward to that. Meanwhile, I've got Adam Schefter with us all morning long here, standing by to run the hurry up. And let's run through some coaching stuff to begin here. What is the latest on Urban Meyer? Schefter.
Doug Rainey, he's begun assembling a staff of assistant coaches should he decide to take the Jacksonville job. The two sides have been in contact. He was on the boat Friday night with Shad Khan, Tony Khan, going over the job. He's considering to mold that, but he is assembling a staff that includes some college coaches in the event that he does decide to make the jump to the NFL. And as Chris Mortensen reported on Sunday Countdown, Doug Peterson is scheduled to meet this week with Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie after the first meeting between the two men did not go exactly great. I think Lurie's looking for more answers, and as Mort said, Doug Peterson's future right now is in the balance, and we'll see what they have come out of that meeting. But it is not certain that Peterson is safe in Philadelphia just yet. And as we also talked about on Sunday Countdown, Deshaun Watson, really unhappy with the way that events unfolded in Houston last week. And people could say, oh, it's an overreaction, it's early. But I was told that if his anger level was a quote-unquote 2 last year after they traded DeAndre Hopkins away, his anger level now is at a 10. And it's at a 10 because the Texans went to him for advice and recommendations on what to do going forward. He gave some feedback that was basically ignored during the process, and it was ignored in favor of bringing in someone else from New England after they've had a history of people in New England, leaving Deshaun Watson very unhappy. He's been on vacation. He hasn't spoken to the team. My understanding is that this is going to be a long-term deal, that he may want to be traded. He may opt to withhold his services. And again, it's early in the offseason, but this bears watching, Greeny.
Yes, Nick Casario is the man they've hired to be their general manager at this point, and there is a head coaching vacancy there. Fascinating. Rex, you were there on Sunday Countdown yesterday, obviously. What is your big picture take right now on Deshaun?
Yeah, I just thought it was crazy. I mean,